Welcome to the Springfield Township Board of Trustees meeting. It is August 9th, 2016, about 5:30 p.m. Sounds like we have somebody in the outer hallway there anxious for this meeting to get started. Mr. Burning, may we please have the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Burning,
Present.
Ms. McFarland,
Present.
Mr. Honoloff,
Present.
all the trustees are present.
I would ask everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first thing that we have this evening is a Valor Award, which we are going to be presenting. And Mr. Hennenkamp, I'm going to turn this over to you and to the chief.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Hunter Law. As you mentioned, we have a special recognition this evening to recognize two of our members of our Springfield Township Police Department. And this recognition relates to an incident that occurred back earlier in the summer on June the 3rd, early in the morning, about 1:41 a.m. The incident involved a suspect that was pulled over under the suspicion of a DUI by a Springfield Township police officer. The suspect, upon being pulled over, fled the scene and led the police officer on a rather high-speed chase through Springdale and then eventually through Forest Park. Forest Park picked up the pursuit. They pursued through down Winton Road into Springfield Township. Springfield Township police officers deployed stop sticks in the pursuit, and eventually the car came to a stop. During this whole time during the pursuit, not only was the individual fleeing, but there was also a passenger in the car who was attempting to exit the car. The car door was open for the vast majority of the pursuit. But the car finally did come to a stop at Winton and North Bend. And Chief, I'll let you take it from there and do the final part of the presentation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hennenkamp. As the board's aware, this incident occurred again June 3rd, about 1:40 in the morning. Immediately after the termination of this motor vehicle pursuit, the suspect exited the vehicle where one gun, he either threw the gun or it fell out of the car, but it was obvious to the multiple police officers that there was a gun involved. With that then met the parameters of our policy for K-9 Paco to be deployed, which he was. He engaged the suspect, bit the suspect up in the left shoulder, at which time the suspect turned, fired 3 rounds at the officers, one of which struck Paco in the shoulder, disabling him for a very brief second. Paco went to the ground, immediately jumped back up, bit the suspect again. The officers, during this split second or two, engaged the suspect in a gun battle, which time the suspect was shot that ended this horrific event. Each year, the Springfield Township Police Department holds an annual awards program. During this program, police officers and civilian employees are recognized for their outstanding performance in their duties as members of our organization. These awards are each carefully considered by the awards committee, and each categorical award must meet established criteria. The parameters for receiving a Medal of Valor state that the Medal of Valor shall be awarded to any police officer who voluntarily distinguished him or herself by displaying extraordinary heroism and or bravery with minimal risk to innocent parties. The officer must be aware of any imminent threat to his personal safety, and the actions must be above the call of duty at the risk of the individual's personal safety. There's no question that night K-9 Paco and Officer Sheeler met those parameters, and without their actions, the lives of a number of other police officers in our community at large were at risk. So with that, Jim and Paco, on behalf of the men and women of the Springfield Township Police Department, it's both my honor and privilege to award K-9 Paco and Police Officer Jim Sheeler with the Medal of Valor.
Thank you, Chief. You know, I would just like to say in this country, I think so many times we take so many things for granted, but it's because of the actions and the hard work of all the people we have here tonight that, you know, we're able to keep law and order and, you know, which is just the foundation for society. You know, we're seeing so many countries around the world where it's broken down and countries are in turmoil, and we appreciate everything you guys do.
And I would just like to ditto that, because when you listen to the story, it's real clear that there were several attempts made to de-escalate the situation. And to me, that really tells how great our police force are working together with other communities. And one of the things that I've heard from the other communities that helped is, by the way, they're not credentialed either, but they were amazed at the teamwork and the camaraderie and how our police department handled the entire situation. So, you know, they were protecting the community, protecting each other, and protecting the rest of us as well. And Paco is just fabulous. I mean, when you look at that dog, he's beautiful, and he's just wonderful. So I just, you know, we value our police department and the neighbors too. I want to thank all the community folks who have sent letters and sent food to the police department, and sent their praises and prayers as well.
Thank you, Gwen. Tonight's a special night because we have two recognitions here on the agenda. The next one we have is for the 1979 Finneytown High School Women's Swim Team AAA State Championship recognition. And Kim, I'm going to turn this one over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight, Fred Wittenbaum and Finneytown's new superintendent, Terry No, will be accepting a recognition certificate on behalf of the 1979 Finneytown Women's Swim Team. Mr. Wittenbaum brought to the board's attention a special story that was recently written in the Cincinnati Enquirer entitled Glory Days. Within this feature, the Enquirer celebrates key moments and teams throughout Cincinnati sports history. The March feature highlighted the talent, unusual hurdles, great odds, and major accomplishments of the 1979 women's swim team. The story shares that in 1979, new rules added by the Ohio Athletic Association allowed Finneytown swimmers to compete as a team in the state championships for the first time. Previously, to the new rulings, the swimmers could only compete individually because they were unable to practice together as a team. Traditionally, Finneytown swimmers trained individually. But following all of the rules created one major obstacle for Finneytown, who had a member who was competing with the U.S. squad. That could have been considered a rule violation in competing with another team outside of their high school team. A class action suit with the Hamilton County Police Court raised a permanent injunction allowing the swimmers to compete without restriction in events related to Olympic development. Through perseverance, the Finneytown team of 6 faced an Upper Arlington team of over 40 swimmers and captured the state title by a comfortable margin of 49 points. A national record was set in the 200 medley relay, and individual state records were set in the 200 freestyle and the 200 individual medley. The article goes on to share that the state championship didn't generate much fanfare, as the high school prom was the very next day. Upon later account, it was also noticed that the traditional state champs banner was not hung in the school. Mr. Wittenbaum has made it his quest to see that these ladies receive their recognition that they deserve, even 37 years later, with a celebration on Saturday, September the 17th. Also, we have to just note that this is perfect timing as it goes along with the U.S. Olympic medals and the celebrations that are happening in the country now.
Thank you, Kim. And we have Terry. Terry is here. What? And Fred, on behalf of the swim team, we're going to come down front.
This is actually on behalf of Fred, because he's spearheaded all of this.
in recognition of the 1979 Finneytown High School Girls Swim Team AAA State Championships. Whereas we, the Board of Trustees of Springfield Township, Hamilton County, met today in a regular session on the 9th of August, 2016, and all of us agree that this is a great event, and therefore we won't go through all the whereas, because everyone knows how great this is and what an awesome opportunity this has been. So therefore, we resolve the Springfield Township Board of Trustees now recognizes the 1979 Finneytown High School Girls Swim Team and AAA State Champions.
I'm coming into this kind of late. I'm the new superintendent at Finneytown. I'm loving Finneytown. Thank you all very much. And it's really thrilling that a community would reach out to people who didn't get recognized 30-some years ago. And these people are coming back, flying from all over the country because of this man right here. And we are purchasing a banner to hang in our gym, along with all the other banners that have recognized people through the years. So it's a pretty proud moment.
It's actually very interesting because this was the first Ohio High School state-sponsored team swim championship. So it's unique in that respect. It's also big state, not divided by division. So this is right in line with the state soccer championships that the team won back in the mid-'70s, again, over the entire state. The girls, I still refer to them as girls. The girls are still, they're all over the place, and they're all coming back on September 17th. We have a whole host of surprises for them. There are a number of actual Olympians that will be attending on the 17th from the swim world, the dive world, from this country and others. It's a very small swim community, and they all like to pay recognition to those. Finneytown is unique in the fact in 1980 we had Glenn Mills and Kim Carlisle, who were both members of the 1980 U.S. swim team from Finneytown High School. So this is going to be a neat event. I'm just the conduit. Everything is working around, but there are a whole lot of surprises in store for these girls when they get back, this being one of them, because they're not aware that this is happening. So this is going to be a real neat event for them. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you. All right, next, moving on with our agenda this evening, we have approval of minutes from our regular session on July 12, 2016, a regular work session on July 26, 2016, a public hearing on July 6, 2016, and a bid opening on July 29, 2016. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, Mr. Burning, our fiscal officer, do we have a financial report?
Yes, we do. If I can find it. Here it is. For the month ending 7/31/2016, the township expenditures were $1,543,341.31, and receipts were $1,090,740.62. The ending cash balance of $18,006,319.31 includes obligations for expenditures, payroll, regular operating costs, ongoing and capital improvement projects, and investments. I request a motion to approve the receipts, warrants, payroll expenditures, updated and current revenue and reports for the period ending July 31st, 2016. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I just want everyone to know that all financial reports are available for viewing at the administration offices during regular business hours and also on our website. Thank you. Mr. Harlow?
Thank you, Mr. Burning. Next, moving on to departmental action and discussion items. Mr. Hennekamp, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. Hunterlaw. Just a couple of action items. One is we do have a liquor permit request from Walgreens Company, doing business as Walgreens 11269. It is located at 8210 Winton Road. And Chief, I don't believe there's any objections to the issuance of this new permit. So
Do we have a motion for the fiscal officer to send the typical correspondence to the Ohio Department of Liquor Control?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The only other action item I have is actually, we do have a resolution. It's Resolution 70, so it'll be just coming up here shortly in the meeting, but little heads up on that one is the board's aware we are required, I believe it's every 5 years by law, to advertise that the township is soliciting bids for proposals for our depository from financial institutions. We put an RFP out, and on July the 26th was the deadline. We actually received 2 proposals. One was from Northside Bank, and the other was from West Banco. Based on the review by the fiscal officer, myself, and our finance director, we're recommending that we would retain Northside Bank as our depository, as it is most favorable to the township in terms of what fees. Basically, there are very, very few or any fees, where West Banco did have some fees. So again, actual action will be coming up just here in a little bit, as Resolution 70-216. Seems to be the police's night. Man, all the crowd left, and we've got one other big congratulations, township-wide, or department-wide, to our police department. At the end of the final weekend in July in Baltimore, Maryland, our police department received its 7th accreditation award from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. This is a very, very prestigious award to get, a very, very difficult award. These are, how many total standards are there, Chief?
189.
189 standards that must be achieved. They're national standards that deal with all facets of the organization. It's not something that we're required to do, but it's something that, I know the board, we talked about this many, many years ago, that it was important that we achieve a higher level than what other departments in the state of Ohio do. And I believe there's only a total of 63 in the state of Ohio that have achieved this. 53. And how many nationally?
Around 1,000.
1,000, I think it said.
Right around 1,000.
Yeah, about 1,000. So very few were able to
Out of
achieve
how
this.
many departments? 35,000.
So,
So roughly 1 in every 35 departments.
Less than
is-
3%.
Yeah.
so, this is something we've done every 3 years now. I know it's going to be an every 4 year
Since 1999.
deal, and so congratulations to you, Chief, to Brian, and the rest of the team, Chris and Rick, and everybody that worked very, very hard. But it's really something that, even though these guys are responsible for putting it together, it's really something that I think the entire department has to work to achieve. So,
It's organizational wide. It won't work without it. So everybody's on board with it. It doesn't, it's the 7th time through. It doesn't get any easier, but it guarantees that we're putting the best services out there that are available.
And I think, Chief, sometimes maybe the public doesn't understand exactly what this is, but when there's you said 189 standards, so those are rules or guidelines by which we have to run our department, correct?
Correct. What they are, there's 189 of these standards, and what those are the basis for and the foundations for each policy, each of our policies that we have. Now, we do have way more than 189. These deal with critical policies. we have to abide by these policies, and we have to prove that we abide by these policies. And we have assessors come in every 3 years from the outside that don't know us, and they go through everything we do from top to bottom. So not an easy process, but well worth it.
The other thing is, it's an ability to strive for excellence, because anytime you're going out for accreditation, it changes everyone's behavior, including the community, because everyone watches everyone works together, and that's why our police are more focused on community-oriented policing. But it also, it sets gold standards, and I think when you shared the incident that we had, back with Paco, it was clear that the teaching, the professionalism that was demonstrated can be equated to our officers, how they're trained and how they adhere to the training values, and also represent the community and keeps our community safe. So it's just really, I'm just so proud of our police department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
The only, just a couple of other updates, just to mention to the board, tis the season, late August is where we start putting together our skip applications for the upcoming year. This is actually going to be round 31, if you can believe that, of the skip process. And so Mike Gould has been working diligently. We've talked a little bit, he and I, and we're going to continue to review that. So we're hoping that probably at an upcoming, maybe our next trustee meeting, work session, we'll be ready to present some recommendations to the board regarding what skip applications we are proposing to go forward with for round 31. And the only other thing I have is the personnel update. And in the fire department, we did promote Cody Hogg, part-time EMT, to a part-time paramedic. Effective date was July 14th. In the police department, we promoted Chris Anderson. Chris was promoted to the position of detective, and the effective date of his promotion is July the 18th. Did accept the resignation of Ken Bowles. Ken was a detective. His effective date was July the 31st. And after a long process, we're happy to report that we have hired 4 new police officers. These are all filling vacancies in the department that we've had through retirements over the last several months. The first is Alex Butler as a full-time police officer, effective date July 25th. Douglas Freeman, also as a full-time police officer, same starting date of July the 25th. Thomas Mullins, full-time police officers, also July 25th, and William Yeager, full-time police officer, July the 25th. So that's all I have. Kim, I'd maybe ask you to bring us up to date with what's going on with community events and programs.
Thank you. Arts Connect has wrapped up the summer concert series. They were pretty successful this year, and now we're just getting ready to go into our dinner theater series. We have one on Friday with Jackie Robinson, and then an event in September called Post Comedy Theater. Tickets are $40 for dinner and the show.
Thank you, Kim.
Joe, I know the board has copies of the departmental activity reports. Unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Henkamp. Next, we'll move on to resolutions this evening. The first resolution that we have is Resolution Number 70, 2016, designating financial institution as public depository, that being Northside Bank and Trust. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honolaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution Number 71, 2016, which is a supplemental appropriations within the General Fund, Police District Fund, Fire District Fund, Road District Fund, Federal Law Enforcement Forfeitures Fund, Task Force Fund, and the Task Force Grant Fund, and appropriation adjustment within the Public Improvement Tax Increment Equivalent Fund. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Bernie?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honolaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution Number 72, 2016, authorizing sale by internet auction of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in the police department. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honorlaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution Number 73, 2016, authorizing sale by internet auction of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in the fire department.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honorlaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution Number 74, 2016, resolution to amend Resolution Number 62, 2016, declaring a dangerous property condition at 1264 Murat Court. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honorlaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
And just for anyone that's here that was not here for our prior, we had a public hearing before this meeting. This was a property in the township which burnt down back in May. Its chief has inspected it. It constitutes a dangerous property condition, and we are taking action here tonight to have the property demolished, what's left of it. Next, we have Resolution Number 75, 2016, declaring nuisances pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87 at various listed properties within Springfield Township and authorizing statutory actions necessary to abate the nuisances. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honorlaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have Resolution Number 76, 2016, declaring motor vehicles located on public or private property in Springfield Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, to be junk motor vehicles pursuant to Revised Code Section 505.173 and ordering the removal of such vehicles pursuant to Resolution Number 80, 2012, and Revised Code Section 505.871. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mr. Burning?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Honorlaw?
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Next, we have old business. Do we have any old business before the board this evening? Do we?
I just, we have a letter here from the Park District Chief thanking Chief Leininger for providing a safe level of safety for an activity that occurred there in July. And I remember we had to kind of respond in a short period of time to meet the needs of that event. Can you kind of go into detail a little bit more about that?
Well, the event was formerly held at the Old Coney Island, and the venue was switched this year to Winton Woods. And it was a special event for kids between the age of approximately 5 to 12. Young kids looking for things to do for the summer. A lot of it were camp-related type activities. And I don't know the exact date, but approximately 4,000 kids were shipped to Winton Woods, kind of on short notice. And we were concerned with their safety, obviously, with that many kids and kind of minimal supervision. But the park rangers did a great job. We had excellent cooperation. Chief Doyle talked to me about providing some EMS personnel so in case anything would happen medically, we were there. And we did. We provided several paramedics. We switched them out throughout the day. Had a great time with the kids. They were a lot of fun. Fortunately, we didn't have any major incidences, even though the temperature reached 100 degrees that day. It was extremely hot, but it made the water activities more enjoyable, I think, for the kids. They enjoyed the lake, and they had a lot of things for the kids. So it was a great event. Fortunately, nothing major happened. That was a combination of, I think, a little luck and good planning. But it was a good event, and I think they're planning on having it again next year. So
Great example.
good cooperation with our neighbors to the north at Winton Woods, and it was nice to be recognized by Chief Doyle. We appreciate it.
3,000 kids. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great
3 or 4?
partnership.
Well, it was approximately 4,000 kids. Yeah, there were a lot, and they kept arriving all day long. So at one time, it seemed like there were probably more than that. But But it was a good event. It was well organized, and they had a lot of things for the kids, and it was a good day.
Thank you. Again, another way we partnership with our neighbors.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
I don't have any, Joe.
The only thing I was going to say is I have been representing the Hamilton County Township Association and Springfield Township on the Hamilton County Land Bank. The Hamilton County Land Bank is administered by the Greater Cincinnati Port Authority, is working on removing blight throughout Hamilton County. There's been a number of state and federal grants which have allowed money to be used to primarily remove neglected, abandoned, blighted properties. We're going to be trying to schedule some meetings, and primarily I'd say these efforts have occurred in the city of Cincinnati and in some of the outlying communities, but probably more in the inner city than it has in the townships and suburbs. But we are going to be planning some meetings with some of the administration of the land bank to see if there are ways that they can possibly help us with some of the challenges that we have here in the township. And, stay tuned. We'll be back, when we have more definite things to report. But that's a project we're going to be working on.
I have one thing
Yes.
as well, new business. In our last meeting, I think it was last month, we had a proclamation or resolution regarding the National Community Health Center Week. And so this is National Community Health Center Week. So I had the opportunity to go to our health center that's in Mount Healthy. And that health center provides easy access to all of the communities, Springfield Township, Mount Healthy, and et cetera. And they had a very good turnout today. That health center is going to be celebrating, its base is in Lincoln Heights, but it's going to be celebrating its 60th anniversary in 2017. So they have been pioneers in opening doors and allowing easy access to individuals who may be underserved, unemployed, to keep them healthy and their families as well. So we'll be looking forward. They want us to participate in their 60th anniversary in 2017, and I said we will, won't we?
Yes. Thank you.
So we're excited about that.
Thank you, Gwen. Next, we're to the citizens' participation part of the meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board this evening? If there is, I would ask that you come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, so that, and ask everyone else be quiet so we can hear what the speaker has to say. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Anna Fields. I live in 1962 Fallbrook Lane. I have to give you some background leading up to the concern that I want to address this evening. On July in 2010, my husband and I had a fence installed, 5 panels, 3 across the back and 2 on the side, making a 90-degree angle. The installer told me that I had a choice as to which side should face us or the neighbors. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yes. So I said, well, I'd like the nice side toward us, which he did. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from the township saying that our fence was installed the wrong way. We needed to take it down, and he did not get a permit. So I called him, and he said he would take care of it. So he did. They double-faced the fence, and he got a permit. Now, we had new neighbors who moved in behind us, and a very nice lady, and she had a large dog, German Shepherd, Rottweiler mix, beautiful dog, nice temperament. But between us, there was a chain link fence, and she wanted to make sure that her dog did not get over that fence. So she told me she was going to have a fence put up, and fine, no problem. So the day that they started to install the fence, I noticed that they were turning it the wrong way. So I went out and I addressed it, and they said, we can't get between your fence and where we want to put this fence. And then they said, well, you saw us putting these posts out here. You should have said something to us. So then, as I pursued it, they said, they laughed and said, pretend it belongs to you. So I called the township about it, and I was telling them that they were putting this fence up the wrong way. And what they had said, I think there was a new inspector that day, and he said, or someone I spoke to said, well, we can see your property. We have an aerial view of your property, and we have an aerial view of your property, and we can see where your panels are and where they're putting up their fence, and they can't put up their fence because of where your fence is. Well, my fence was not on the line. It was several inches away from the line, or at least a foot away from the line. However, I accepted that. I couldn't do anything about it. So recently, I had new neighbors move in beside me. And the gentleman and his wife, nice people, said they have a dog also, and they want to put up a fence. And I thought, well, I'm going to get ahead of this. And I called the inspector and asked him to come out to take a look at where my fence was and where he wanted to put his fence up. He had a survey done, which was fine. And this is a new inspector, and when he came out, he saw the fence behind me, and he said, well, that's up wrong. That needs to come down. That's the wrong way for that fence to be facing. And I told him what had happened previously, and I said, my question is, if my fence is not on the property line, if someone else wants to place a fence on their property, do they have the right to turn it the wrong way because they want to put it so close to my fence? And he said, no, they need to back their fence up onto their property. So, and he said, and I'm going to ask the people behind you to move their fence. They need to take it down. So he called me back and he said he had talked to the lady who owned the house behind me, and she was willing to take her fence down. Then he called me back later, a few days later, and said they can't take the fence down because they were given special permission to put their fence up that way. I have shrubbery up and so on. But I feel like I was treated unfairly because we had to make an adjustment on our fence, and none was made for the people behind me. They could have put their fence up, according to what I learned from the inspector, if they had just backed it up a little bit. Mine's not on the line. Theirs didn't have to be on the line either. So I feel like things like this kind of inconsistency causes problems where there were no problems before. Now, I'm not having any problems with my neighbors. The fence has gone up on the side. I like those people. I like the people behind me. The odd thing about this is the man who installed the fence behind me and installed the fence on the side of me is a neighbor who lives catty-cornered from me. And he has done both of these fences, and I would like to see some consistency in how fences can be installed. And one thing the inspector did say to me, we tell everyone when they get a building permit, the fence has to be turned with the smooth side out. And that's not what happened in our case.
Well, Chris, is this a zoning issue or a building department issue?
It's a zoning issue, and I spoke to Ms. Fields about this. It's been about a year ago now, I think, this issue came up. And at the time, as she indicated in her presentation, what I thought came to a mutual understanding between Mrs. Fields and her neighbor to the rear, in that, unfortunately, in the manner in which Ms. Fields constructed her fence, the neighbor behind her, in all practicality, would have a very difficult time to comply with the zoning code and still enjoy the rights that they have in terms of putting the fence as close to the property line as they're allowed to. They would have a very difficult time having the side facing out and being able to do that work where her fence already is existing. The space in between the two fences would make it very difficult to do that. Given the fact that a good portion of the neighbor's fence behind her is not visible because of Mrs. Fields' own fence, so you can't, they're the same height, so you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. And then in addition of the landscaping that Mrs. Fields alluded to, basically, for all intents and purposes, obstructed her view of the neighbor's fence and therefore doesn't really see the undesired appearance side anyway. So when I spoke to her, I asked, do you want me to pursue this any further? And she indicated, no, I'll talk to my neighbor. It's okay, leave it alone. With my landscaping and where my fence is, it's fine. So we never pursued it any further in order to keep peace between the neighbors. And again, in all practicality, it was very difficult for the neighbor to comply anyway, given the fact of where her fence is. That's my recollection of the conversation, but, if it's something that, we want to continue to pursue, I don't.
Is there a rule that fences are supposed to be constructed with a smooth side out?
There absolutely is a rule.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this a situation where you've built a fence and somebody's trying to build a fence right up against
Correct.
yours?
Yes.
And so there's probably no way of attaching these, is it a wooden fence?
Yes. 6-foot privacy
And
fences.
so you're saying you couldn't really get in there to attach
It'd be
boards
hard.
to the.
It would be difficult. And the fact that a good portion of that fence is not visible anyway because Mrs. Fields' fence actually is in front of it and she has landscaping on the other side, it was a mutual understanding between the neighbor, Mrs. Fields, and myself that we were going to let it be the way it is. And a lot of times in zoning enforcement, while that's the rule, sometimes you have to approach these things in a common sense way and how it's constructed in the field and make a common sense judgment on any particular situation. That's what was done in this case.
I need to disagree. You can see their fence because my fence has scallops like this way. So you can see their fence. I did not agree. The first thing I said when I was talking to you on the phone, do I need to take my fence down? What do I need to do so they can turn it the right way? And then I was given the alternative, well, you can take it down. Well, they had already started working. They had already put those posts in. And the odd thing about this, the really odd thing, that neighbor who is the installer, his wife and my daughter went to school together, rode to Macaulay together. I thought they were friends of ours. I've had him do work for me put up gates for me. So I was dismayed that he would do this without even extending me the courtesy of talking to me about it in case he needed more room. I did not agree. I was just told that they have a permit, they cannot get between your fence and where they want to put their fence. So, Chris, you and I have a different recollection of what took place that day. Also, I might add that when I was on the phone, I don't know whether it was with you, Chris, or with someone else, somebody said to me, oh, I didn't know it was you, Anna.
So, Ms. Fields, what exactly are you asking us to do?
If we had to comply with straightening up making our fence correct, I feel like since the inspector, he was adamant about the fact that their fence is not properly installed. And he was pursuing that. And he was told they were given special permission to do that. I don't know who gave them the special permission, but if this is the property line and my fence is here, and you want to put your fence right there, why can't you move your fence back just like I moved my fence back so you can get in there and put the smooth side out?
So what you're saying is you want them to change their fence?
Yes, and
Okay.
the reason I wanted.
That's what I
that
thought.
is
I just wanted to
because
get-
She said, she told the inspector, the lady who owns the property, she told him that she was willing to have it taken down and corrected.
Okay, well, I don't think we give special exceptions to anybody. The rules are the rules.
They should be.
And they are. And as Mrs. Fields indicated, we must have a different recollection of that conversation. But it was my understanding that after she spoke with the neighbor, she wanted to sort of let it water over the dam, so to speak. If the request is to have them move their fence, I think one of two things can happen. Either as a township zoning department, we can go back after them and open a case relative to a zoning violation on that property. When we issue zoning permits, we do indicate that the fence has to be faced out. If they didn't do that in compliance, then they're in violation of the zoning permit they were issued. Or two, she can take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an appeal of a zoning inspector's decision and let the Board of Zoning Appeals determine whether or not the fence has to be reversed.
That's what I was going to suggest. This really isn't any jurisdiction of the Board of Trustees. You adopted township zoning, you've got a Board of Zoning Appeals. If there's somebody that has aggrieved, there's a procedure in Ohio law that's why you have a Board of Zoning Appeals. This really falls under the jurisdiction of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
That's kind of why I was asking, what did you want? This is, so what we're saying here, Ms. Fields, is we have a zoning resolution, that covers our township. There's rules that we have to, everyone live by. And if there are problems with that, special exceptions, things that need to be addressed, they would come in front of the Springfield Township Board of Zoning Appeals, the BZA. And that would be, I think, incumbent on the neighbor to bring.
Actually, it
Or
would be incumbent
either
on Mrs.
party.
Fields to bring because she's the aggrieved party.
Okay, all right.
When's the next zoning appeals?
They meet the third Tuesday of every month, but I have to have 30 days prior in order to present a case to them.
So what you could do is file a complaint, and it would go before that board, who could actually, they would have the authority to vote on that. But it's not something that the Board of Trustees, the three of us, can
Here's what I would suggest, is that some point, probably beginning of next week, because give me some time to look into the situation, speak to the inspector who is out at her property, and let me reconvene and meet with Mrs. Fields first part of next week and discuss next steps and figure out a resolution to her complaint.
That sounds workable to me.
That sound fair?
Yes, but what I want to emphasize is the fact that there should be consistency. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So I should not have to come here to the trustees to talk about this, because I already talked to the proper authorities, and I've been given different information at different times. So that's why I'm here tonight, to talk to you guys about it. I
Well,
pursued it along the channels I was supposed to follow.
Well, and we do want our rules, enforced consistently, and that's what's been the policy of this board, throughout the township. And I think all our inspectors and other, our other departments try and do that in every circumstance that they can. I don't know what the history was on some of this, but why don't we look into it with Chris, and we'll see if you would be willing to meet with him. We'll see if we can't work this thing out to everyone's satisfaction.
I appreciate the inspector who came out. He was very cordial, and he seemed to be well-informed about what needed to take place. So I have no problem with him. I have no problem with my neighbors. But I do feel that this should have been handled differently.
You don't think there should be special permission?
No.
Well, I just want to address that one, because that sounds so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, what Chris said is often what happens, because you have all these rules, right? And the rule is to benefit the neighbor behind on this one. It is to benefit you. So sometimes you could enforce every single rule, and you could be in everyone's backyard, and you could be causing neighbors to hate one another left and right. Generally, if it's something that doesn't harm the person, as in you can't see it, as Chris said. Now, you're saying you can. I'm not disputing the facts. But in a circumstance where Chris or a zoning inspector comes out and there's two fences together, yes, it's turned the wrong way, it's going to be very difficult to fix it. The neighbor behind who that rule is supposed to benefit, if they say, I'm not really concerned, we would generally let that go. Because to make a neighbor move their fence and remove their fence can create far more damage than leaving it the way it is if the neighbor doesn't mind.
I
You're saying you
understand what
mind.
you're saying, but if I had not called the same day that was going on, it could have been rectified then. It could have been rectified
And I don't know what
then.
happened with that, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I do.
It's not that the rules aren't being enforced, it's just, that's how you do this in zoning, is you don't want to create a neighborhood warfare over something that, in our mind, wasn't bothering people. Obviously, the rules have to be enforced, and that's the way it goes, but there is a special exception, it's called a variance. They can go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals and get a variance, but that apparently didn't happen here.
One other thing I need to say, I have lived in this house for 40 years, and right now, there is a tan fence going across the back, my fence on the corner, and a big white fence going this way. And it didn't need to be that way, but this one turned the wrong way, and then this one, and then that one. I plan to take mine down at this point so that it's a little more attractive there.
Thank you.
But I will meet with you because I do want a resolution to this.
If I may I had this same situation occurred with a piece of rental property that I own within the city of Cincinnati. And the issue was, and it sounded like she followed protocol, she's 6 inches off the line, and the other person is on the line. Those 6 inches between the two of them give them the foot to go in between to flip it one way or another way. And it sounds like that's the problem that she's having with this, and the other party don't want to change it because of the appearance. Now, as to whether this is the rule in the township or in the county, that's a different issue. But with the city of Cincinnati, they recommend that you do 6 inches off the line, not on the line. It's not a standard rule that you can't do it on the line, but they recommend that you do 6 inches off.
And I don't, he said something about my neighbor. She was willing, when the inspector talked to her, she was willing to turn her fence, have it taken down. The inspector also said he was going to tell them how to flip it, so they could just flip it around. So, anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Mrs. Field. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening?
How you guys doing? First of all, you need to get a taller chair, because I cannot get up out of those chairs.
Taller chair.
But what I'm here for, I wanted to come to the meeting last time, but I had death in the family.
Sir, will you, for the record, would you give your
Oh, I'm sorry.
address?
Joe Rivers,
Thanks, Joe.
26th Blue Hill Drive, Vice President of SHAG. First of all, I want to retract what I said 2 meetings ago about the Springfield Township Police Department. I said some things that was wrong because I got wrong information. So I want to retract that, and I want to apologize to the chief and his police department. And what we've been doing out in Seven Hills has been a great big improvement out there with the help of Mike and Kim, Cindy. You know, we've been really getting the place cleaned up out there, and then we know we had our meeting and everybody noticing the improvement of Seven Hills, okay? This Saturday, we got our neighborhood cleanup that we do every month. We go through the neighborhood and clean trash up and stuff like that. On the 20th, we're having our book bag giveaway to the kids, big cookout in Old Frost property. And what I decided to do, since, you know, you can't make people clean up, you know, you got to pick up behind them, you know, because my problem, my pet peeve is the trash out there. And so what we're going to do, we got funds generated. We're going to get kids every Saturday, and we're going to get selected streets. We're going to just go through them every weekend, clean them, you know, at the shags at their cost, you know. So we just pay them a few dollars, you know, some, 13, 14-year-old kids. Another problem that we have is the commercial businesses out there that they don't seem to care about their property, you know. I went and talked to them and asked them, could they clean up the place, pick the paper up and the trash and the bottles and the cans, and they more or less thumb their nose up at me. And I goes by there every morning when I get off work, and it just looks terrible. So now we got the problem with the businesses not cleaning up their shops and not cleaning up the stores. I can handle the trash and stuff in the neighborhood. Other than that, when we got people cutting their grass. We got a lot of the junk that be in front of the apartments and the houses cleaned up. Now, the biggest problem we got in Seven Hills now is the trash, but I think I got a remedy for that. We just need to, when you come up on Hamilton Avenue, if you look at the Sunoco, if you look at Riley's, if you look at the strip mall in there, if you look at Little Caesars, just paper everywhere. They does not come out and pick their trash up. If we can just get some cooperation out of the businesses up there to get their paper and trash picked up, it really would make the neighborhood look a lot better. We got a lot next to Little Caesars. We're converting that into like a little sit-down park area. I talked to Chris about it. We're working on that now, and we're going to, with some funds generated from one of the property owners and other funds that we're trying to get, we're going to plant flowers and trees. We're going to put a gateway sign up, with Springfield Township, Seven Hills or whatever we decide it's going to say. And have some park benches in there. People cutting through or they want to sit down and take a little break, have a nice little park for them to do that in. But other than that, everybody's been fine. Everybody's been treating us good. Got cooperation out of everybody, and I'm glad of that. And like I say again, I retract what I said, Chief. I just got some wrong information, and you guys do a great job. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers.
All right.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening?
Stalemate.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have one issue that,
Can you give me your name and address?
yes, Angelo Brace. Got it? That's capital A, capital B.
Bryce? Did you say
Bryce.
Bryce? Okay. And
B-R-I-C.
Right, where you live?
Meredith.
You got a street name and number?
1481.
Thank you. Just for the record, we got to.
328-9785 if you want to.
I don't need that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Here's my concern, and I issued a petition, or gave you guys a petition last month, and I've gotten a response from the chief, and I am totally satisfied with his response. There was another issue involving the properties, and I heard Joe mention something about properties being a nuisance, and that's fine. But the question came to me, does nuisance property include the apartments down below Meredith, even though that they are part of the condominium association? Does that fall under the jurisdiction of the Springfield Township Association? Do you have authority over the condominium association for nuisance properties?
Well, we would have authority over them under, if you hear me at every meeting talk about Ohio Revised Code 505.87, where we're declaring nuisances, those are typically for high weeds, noxious weeds, different things where we're going in and cleaning up properties. we would have authority, that's over any land in the state of Ohio. I think what you're getting at more is our property maintenance code.
That's the issue that came to me, the maintenance of these properties that are owned by different landlords in that facility, in that apartment complex. And it appears that the condominium association is not doing what they're supposed to do with those tenants or those owners of that facility. So therefore, the people that are living there, that are taking care of their property, they're concerned because these homes that are around their homes are beginning to bring the value of their homes down. And then some of them are absolutely have been neglected to the point where they're going to need some extensive repair. I've looked at some of them from the outside, and I see, frankly, what the person or people are talking about.
Well, if I'm familiar with those condos, I've appraised a number of them. The association is in charge of the exterior of the properties. The owner is in charge of the interior. So the problems would be with the association for the exterior. They're in charge of the siding, the roof, the landscaping. The owner's in charge of the interior.
Inside. Okay.
So if there's problems with the exterior, that would be the homeowners association that would be responsible for that. And they collect monthly dues to maintain the exterior. Now, whether they have the dues or somebody's doing something funny with them, I don't know. But that's the way that project works, because I've done a lot of appraisals of condos in there.
Well, I guess my question to you guys would be then, what authority would you have to enforce the association to do what they're supposed to do?
We would not have authority under the homeowner association
That's the wrong answer,
bylaws,
Joe.
the condom, what's that?
That's the wrong answer.
I know, but I'm just saying, that would be a civil matter among the owners of that condominium association. If some of the owners there said, our association is not following by what the bylaws are of the condominium,
Okay.
then that would be a civil matter that they would have to take up in court. I mean, the only other issue would be, we have a property maintenance code which covers some things, but it doesn't cover everything. And Chris, I believe that is applicable not only, it's applicable to all residential structures, or am I incorrect?
It's applicable to any structure, whether it's residential or not.
Okay.
So
But they don't cover general,
it depends on what the issue is. I
It
can't say with
does.
any certainty. I'd have to have a specific type of violation in order to determine whether or not it falls under the property maintenance code or not. I can tell you that if there is a particular violation on one or multiple different condominium, it would fall under against the overall property owner. If that's the HOA, then that's the HOA. I'd have to look more into it. I can't say with any certainty here. But it does, the property maintenance code does apply to any and all structures, whether they be commercial, residential, condominium or not.
Well, this is not an issue I want to just put out there on the floor and leave. If this is something that I can, at some point in time, sit down with Mr. Gilbert and we hash through this matter and come up with a solution, I would like to do so.
if you can give, if you would give Mr. Gilbert the specific information on what properties and, where we're, what exactly you're talking about, then we can look into it further and determine what's the best course of action.
All right, I'd appreciate that. I'll speak with him and we'll arrange some kind of meeting and come together on this.
Thank you, Mr. Bryce.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Carrie Reisner, and I live at 856 Denier Place. And I'm here to speak about the proposed water development. And I've spoken to you before, but I did want to share with you that I've lived here for 4 years, so I'm a newcomer to the township. And A few years in, I'd heard about the Warder property and people saying wonderful things, and I tried 3 different times to get back there, through my neighborhood, I couldn't do it, through another neighborhood, and I finally got back there. Meanwhile, the neighbors are talking about the proposed development and about some high-end boutiques and, some of the attributes of the development that, you all have talked about. And I have to say, I thought, sounds like a good idea to me. Our retail could use a shot. We need a little help. And then I got back to Warder, and once I stepped back there, I realized that this is not your usual green space. And then talking with the neighbors, the quality, I'm sure you have heard back there, we've got foxes, blue herons. That property, I don't live next to the property, I live close to it, maybe over a quarter mile, somewhere between a quarter mile and a half a mile away. And it creates a country living in the city, which is really a unique situation. So, and at that point, I just said, this is a very special green space that is a huge asset, could be a huge asset to the community at large if it were opened up and allowed the community at large to use it. And, there are established health and psychological benefits to green spaces. That's why New York City has a huge green space in the middle of it, and all cities do. So I think that you have an asset that you could use in a different way that would last a whole lot longer than a development. But when I started talking more about and learning more about why does the township feel the need to go in and bulldoze it and pave it and put up housing, and it's not a secret. You're trying to build your tax base, and my understanding is that it's the roads that really are the one area that needs money, that's really in a dire situation, correct?
It's certainly one of our major capital expenditures, yes.
Okay. And so when I purchased my home 4 years ago, our tax rate here in Finneytown is very, very high. It's a lot higher. I hope to do a little research for you, compare it to some local areas, and bring some numbers to you. Right now, I've got a lot of professional and some personal issues going on right now, but there will be another month that I'll be back with some numbers. But it's no secret that the one thing that's driving a really high tax rate in the Finneytown area is the school district. And I recently, about a month ago, and so I'm running off my memory here, but I did get on the state website. It's the report card. Have any of you accessed that website? And what it does is it looks at the performance of the schools, and it also looks at the tax expenditure. And according to the website, it did show that the performance here in Finneytown, unfortunately, is not good. Some of the schools got D's. I'm not sure if one got an F, but it was down at the bottom. And the expenditure was up around the 11th percentile, so up around the top 10%. And this is what is driving property values down in Finneytown, is an expensive school system that is not functioning where it used to and where it should for the money. So the bang you're getting for your buck is not good right now. So, as a person that lives within a half-mile Warder, I feel that you're coming up with a solution to a really important problem, our roads. That problem does need to be fixed. I applaud you for your work and coming up with solutions, but I feel that you're not solving the right problem. I know as trustees, you don't have jurisdiction over the school system, but you sure can talk to each other, you can go to their meetings, and we can help solve the problem. There's a problem over there. So, again, you know what my feelings are in Warder. I feel it's an asset that it would be tragic to get rid of. I believe it's an asset that the township can use in a much more productive way over a longer period of time, and I believe that you have a problem that you need to solve somewhere else. Thank you so much.
Carrie, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments.
Good evening.
Yes.
My name's Kim Klomp. I live on Bryn Mawr, 6924. So my concern is regarding the signage at Whitaker and at North Bend Road, the signage for the mixed-use development, which was posted mid-May of this year. So my concern is that at the time, I attended the zoning board meeting. That was May 31st, when they decided to take it from a residential zoning to a mixed development zoning. So when the signage was posted, the zoning was still for residential, correct? Is that right? Okay. So is that false advertisement for Springfield Township to put signage up regarding mixed-use development when it was still zoned for residential development? And my second question is that when the zoning board decided to recommend rezoning from residential to mixed development, and I came to that meeting as well, and I think I spoke again, that was taken under consideration and everybody agreed, but the signage still was false. It's false advertisement. How can you say that this area is for mixed-use development when it was zoned for residential development at the time of the posting?
Well, ma'am, the township had undertaken the process of rezoning that property. This is something that we've been talking about for years. It was something that was well in the process when I believe the St. Francis group put up the signs. Obviously, you can put up a sign and say you can say anything you want. Obviously, it can't be a mixed-use development until that zoning has actually gone into place, which it has.
Mm-hmm.
So
After the fact.
it did, yeah. Chris, I don't know if you got something.
It's pretty commonplace for developers to place signs up prior to the zoning being in place, just to start to garner interest on the property. A lot of times the signs say possible development potential or mixed-use potential or things of that nature, meaning that oftentimes there are properties that are zoned residential and they put up a sign saying possible commercial opportunity and wait for that individual to then buy the property and go through the rezoning process themselves. So this is pretty commonplace. It's an industry standard to put up the sign as soon as possible prior to the zoning change with anticipation of a zoning either being imminent or waiting for an individual to take it to the zoning process once it's under contract. So this is something that happens all the time, not just in this case, but I think throughout the nation, frankly, as it relates to development.
I've seen the signs, and I don't know if it said potential or.
It does not.
But
It says mixed-use development.
The developer was trying, as Chris said, trying to say, it's out here, there's a potential for.
We also had the neighborhood plan that said the mixed use, so we had, the planning to do that.
We're in the process of changing the zoning. If the zoning hadn't been changed, obviously, they would have taken the signs down.
I can tell you that all of the prospective calls that St. Francis Groups has received, they've informed them that it's not zoned for that. And that's the same thing that St. Francis Group knew when they entered into the development agreement to be the preferred development. They knew it had to be rezoned. So any of the calls that were taken, they're telling people that this is the process that the township is going through. This is what we're pursuing. There's going to be a time. It's not a guarantee that that will be done. But
It just seems like, at the last meeting, somebody used the word transparency, and it doesn't seem like that's what's happening here. I live 200 feet from the property, and I was not notified that all of these things were going on. And you claim that you had these focus groups, but nobody in my neighborhood were invited or notified, or we had no idea this was going on. And so I have mentioned before at previous meetings that I would like to have a voice in what is happening on this property, and it's just still not happening. So how can I get involved to be part of that process? How can this community that's going to be directly affected by this development, if it happens, how can we have a voice? I want you to tell me how I can be involved.
Well, just so you know, the zoning was just changed,
Yes, I was there.
okay?
Yes.
But, I mean, it's officially changed now, and now the developer, instead of saying we're trying to change the zoning, can say, we do have the PUD, and the zoning has been changed. We still, you know everything I know about what may or may not go there. So you want us to tell you in advance
I want
what's
to
going
be
to
part
happen.
of the process.
And we're aware, and there's a number of people that want to be part of that. First of all, we have to have people, the developer comes to us and says, hey, so-and-so is interested in possibly putting whatever in this particular place, and at that point, we'll include people to, and honestly, at the end of the day, the board will have to make the decision on what to do or not do. But
Yeah, that's what's
we have
scary.
listened to Warder people for almost a year now. So for you to get up there and say we're not being transparent, the first time we heard from them was last December.
That's not been a year.
Okay, I
That's
said
not a year.
almost, I
It's-
said almost a year.
Okay,
My point
that's
is,
not
you
almost.
say it's not transparent. We have talked to them and again in several different meetings as well as here.
Mhm.
So I don't know how more transparent we can be. I don't know anything about that development that you don't know about it today.
I would just like to make a comment. Kim, you have been involved in the process. You're involved in the process now. You've been involved in it because you've been very vocal, expressing your concerns. And so I would like to, I see you already involved. And you, and as well as all of the neighbors in that community, are involved. There have been multiple meetings. If you've been able to make and attend those, you are involved. If you haven't, the communication system seems to be very open and transparent from that community. And I see you as being involved, not that you have not. So the door has always been open. One of the things we've said to all of our neighbors throughout the whole township, including Finneytown, anything, any step, any process that's going to occur, the community is involved and is made aware of that. And there's been multiple meetings, and we will continue to keep you involved. But you're involved. I don't perceive you as not being involved.
Well, it's just,
Can I join you?
Yeah.
I have read the contract, and it states that there's, I believe it's weekly meetings between St. Francis Group and the township. Can you share any information of where they are in the process?
At this point, there really isn't anything to share. The next step in the process, now that the rezoning has taken place, is for them to talk about doing a more detailed plan. What was approved in the rezoning was a preliminary development plan, and because that you're talking about a 50-acre plus 60, almost 64-acre site, that preliminary development plan is rather conceptual, as everybody sees. So the next step would be for them to begin developing an actual more detailed plan. Before anything can happen, that has to go back through a process similar to the rezoning. It's not a rezoning, but it's the approval of a preliminary or a final development plan. That
Through-
final development plan could be,
Through the zoning commission?
yes,
Okay.
and that could be as few as 1-2 acres or the whole site. Typically, when you have a big site like that, the whole thing's not going to come in for final development plan approval. You're going to see it come in phases when they actually have something. So when you say you want to be a part of the process, there really isn't a public process to go through at this point. But those are public meetings. They will be advertised as such. Typically, what happens a lot of times, the townships, a big part of the site is being retained as green space.
Right.
So that's going to most likely retain in township ownership. And if the township decides to build some type of recreation or some type of park, then obviously there's going to be a lot of community meetings in the redesign. That will be the township's responsibility, not the developer's responsibility.
So based on weekly progress report conversations between the township and St. Francis Group, what can you share with us?
There really hasn't been anything until the rezoning became official.
Okay, thank you.
so,
The developer isn't going to really do a whole lot until he knows the zoning is actually in place.
Well, here's my concern is that you talk about this green space, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that area, but I walk that area every single day. And I have been back and swung on the vines and all that stuff. Back where they're going to keep the green space is pretty much not developable. You can't develop it. It's like a water creek that comes through this ravine. That's their green space. You can't use it as a person unless you want to hike back there. But it pretty much is just, this ravine that goes down into this area with the creek. And that's their green space. Well, that's not
true. That is a portion of the green space. That's not sizable. There's almost 30 acres of green. There's almost 30.
And so where they're proposing to develop it is I'm 5 houses to the end of the street. So as a resident of Springfield Township, I don't want to look at a building. I don't want to look at garbage cans. I don't want to have lights into my windows because it's an apartment complex or whatever the proposal
If it was
is.
developed as it was zoned, you could be looking at all of those things as of right. So the existing zoning allowed the continuation of basically your neighborhood to be built. None of your streets are cul-de-sac because every one of them were intended to continue through. So the neighborhood that you're in, where you would have been looking at another house and many, many other houses, close to possibly 200, 300 houses, could have been built as of right.
Yeah, I
This
understand.
plan is actually doing most of what you're asking it to do. I would say just reserve your judgment until the plan is actually presented. It's entirely possible that there won't be a market for this particular development. I mean, we've said that all along. I think the board has said that the developer has about another year under contract. I don't think this board's going to approve many of the things that the folks are afraid of. If it's not a development that's going to move the township forward, I don't think the developer has any interest.
That's my concern. I want to be able to trust the trustees of Springfield Township. I do. But I think that's why I want to be so vocal. And so, I mean, I'm going to always look at the worst case scenario because that's just my personality. But there are so many beautiful trees back there that are humongous trees, and they're recycling the air, and they're so good for our environment. And I just see them bulldozing them down. And
they're not going to bulldoze that's the
there's
asset
groves
that's the asset of the property. Every developer that's looked at it has been interested in the site because of the natural assets that are on the property. That's what they want to preserve. That's what's going to make it a desirable place to live. I think most folks seem to think this is going to be all retail or a lot of retail. There is going to be very, very little retail on the site.
What else is it going to be? Residential?
It's going to be primarily residential. It's going to be park and open space, and it's probably going to be some
That's
retail
not what the
and possibly
concept.
some office.
That's not the concept. The residential is a little tiny, like a fourth of.
The mixed use allows that could be all residential. That's what mixed use is. It's just that when you talk about mixed use, it could be an apartment or it could be some type of residential building or complex with retail, a coffee shop downstairs. That's what the mixed use is referring to. So all of that, where you see just residential, is saying that's where you're not going to see any type of retail. So that's going to be, I'd love to sit down and really, I think it's better to do this kind of thing on a one-on-one. I've met with the neighborhood association, I don't know how many times, to try to do these things.
For my neighborhood?
Well, with the group in Denier Place, what they've used is organized several meetings. I think Chris and I have sat through probably 4 or 5 different meetings with them. And
Well,
I'm
I'd
going
be
to actually
happy
be
to-
to Denier Place on Sunday. I was invited to their city. So we've met with them over and over, and be happy to do that with you.
Just so you know, Kim, we really, I know you guys want answers because it has been going on for a long time. We don't have them right now. If we had them, we would tell them to you.
Well, the
And we would
fear
let
is
you
that
give input.
the fear is basically that we didn't know all of this planning was going on to be in the first place. So I guess you're seeing that reaction personally out of me because I'm invested in my home and I'm making significant changes so that I can plan if I need to find somewhere else to live.
I've heard some of the crazy rumors about what's going to happen there, so believe me. I had a number of people come up to me and say, are you going to do this? I'm like, where did you get that? So there's a million rumors out there, so stay in the process. We'll get to a point where we'll have something to talk to you guys about, the whole Keep Order Wild group, and we'll share with you what we're what we're talking about as we go along.
Okay.
Kim, I'd just like to say, when you talk about rumors, I think it's critical that you tell on the rumors. So when you hear those, quote, rumors or something that is upsetting to you and you don't know if it's factual or real, call the township. Don't wait until we have a meeting, because we only meet once a month, okay?
Well, I'm
Call
not
the
hearing
township.
rumors. I've been
Call the
coming.
township and ask to speak with Mike or Chris. And and they will be more than happy to sit down with you and answer all of your questions. I think that's the best route to take. I've always said, when you hear rumors, tell on it, and then it
It's
goes
not the,
away.
that's not the
Kim, let me
case.
just say this, I'd be happy to meet with you on
Okay.
a regular basis to bring you
Okay.
up to date on what it is. There's not a lot to report right now because the zoning just became effective on Friday.
Okay.
And so the developer, we haven't been meeting with the developer because there hasn't really been anything for them to meet until, they're not going to spend time until they know it's finished, and it's,
Okay.
so that's
Thank you.
kind of where we are at this
Thank
point.
you.
So we'd be happy to meet on a regular basis.
But doesn't the PUD say high density up to 300 residents back there? Isn't that on the PUD?
The PUD allows for a very mixture of different uses, yes.
Okay, I thought it
Preserving the
specified
open space.
high-density residents. But, okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? It appears that there is not. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We appreciate it.